Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you all are doing well today. It's me, Larry the Batman fan. I figured I'd cover one last top 15. I figured it was essential to cover this top 15. This top 15 is going to be on the top 15 best Sega Dreamcast games. A majority of the games will not be sports related, but there is going to be probably 3 on the list for this particular list. Just throwing it out there. And that's because they focus on the fun or as being too damn complicated to play. As long as they're able to pick up and play and they're actually fun, then that's what matters the most to me. But as a whole, I'm not a sports person fan. And even though I am a tall man, I'm a 6'7" man, I'm just not into that sort of thing. But anyways, let's get into the list. Let's not waste time here. I'm going to talk about them. The number one Sega Dreamcast game of all time is Sonic Adventure 2. There's no denying that that game is the best game on the Dreamcast. And not enough people put that at number one, but it needs to be solidified here and put at number one because it's really good. The first game is good too, Sonic's Adventure, but it was a little rough around the edges going back to it 23 years later. Or 24 years later, because some of the spinning mechanics around the corner is a little bit slippery. Just a little bit. I'm not saying it's a bad game, but the second game improved upon the first game a lot. And the second game is a fun game. You get to play Sonic, Tails, or Knuckles, and you go through levels, you collect rings, and it's done in a 3D environment, and it's done very well. Lots of jumping on the enemies, the bad guys. Continues the story of the first game, and it's just a blast to play. I remember when that game came out, I was like 8 years old when it came out. I remember playing it at a Hollywood Video back in the day because they had like movies, they had DVDs and VHS, but they also did sell video games, and they had a Sega Dreamcast there, a PlayStation 1, and an N64, and the Sega Dreamcast had Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2 in there, one of them. And I just remember it being such a fun game, and I was like, as a kid, I was like, man, I really wish I had this. Of course, when you're a kid, you don't have money to buy stuff. My allowance was only $5 as a young kid. It didn't increase to $10 or $15 till I got a little bit older. So I really didn't have money to buy any video games as a kid. But that's my number one spot. Number two is Sonic Adventure. Because Sonic Adventure is such a good game, and I had such memorable desire of wanting to play it as a kid and not being able to play it till an adult. It's a good game. It's a little rough around the edges going back to it now, but it's still a great game and definitely one that I highly regard. Number 3 is The House of the Dead 2. That's a very fun game. I remember when The House of the Dead 2 came out in the arcades. I think it was the second game. It was either the first game or the second game. I went to a movie theater, and the movie theater had a racing game there. The House of the Dead 1 or 2 was there, and then they also had Time Crisis, one of the Time Crisis games. And it was another game there, but it was like a basketball game where you throw the ball into the hoop. And so back in the day at the mall, they used to have 2 stadiums where you would go, Regal Theaters, where you would go for movies. They ended up shutting one of them down, and they turned it into it was a Best Buy for a little while, but then Best Buy went downstairs and they put a kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese type of place up on the second floor there. But it's not Chuck E. Cheese. It's like Boo Boo Bees or some shit. I don't know. But yeah, we used to go there. I remember seeing the first Spider-Man movie when that came out. Anyways, we're not here to talk about movies. We're here to talk about games. I just thought I'd mention that. So I played House of the Dead. Mom was kind of mad at me though because she didn't like what I was playing because it was really violent. And I'm just a little 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid. Or actually, no, at the time I think I was 11. Because when I saw Spider-Man, it was in 2002. So I was like 11 or 12. But yeah, I remember playing that game and having a blast. But Mom was like pissed at me for playing it. But yeah, it was a good game. Good light gun shooter where you kill the undead. You know, you kill hordes of zombies and stuff. I recommend it. So now we're at number 4. Number 4 is Shenmue. There's no denying that Shenmue is a great game. It's one of the best games on the Dreamcast. It's an action game. Play as Shenmue. It's like a Chinese dude. And it has some adventure elements in it too. It's an action adventure game. You know, there's parts in the game where you go up to a soda machine, put 50 cents in or 75 cents in, because that's what they cost back then for a can of soda. This Coke is so good. I think I will have another. I just had one, but I think I will have another. Just that was great dialogue, great storytelling. The graphics are mind blowing for 2000 or 2001. Just a really great game. I highly recommend Shenmue. Number 5 is Jet Grind Radio. Jet Grind Radio is an excellent game. It's also known as Jet Set Radio. You play as these punk kids who go around spray painting the towns and the walls with graffiti and doing tricks and stuff, skating on roller skates. And it's got cel shaded graphics in the game. You also get to punch cops and run away from cops. And the game is good. And they made a sequel to it later on the Xbox that also featured Sega GT 2002. Really great game. Great game series. They should make another Jet Set Radio game, but I don't know why they haven't. And no, I don't consider that a sports game. I really don't. Number 6 is Sword of the Berserk. That's a good game. That was like a game where he plays a guy who's got a sword. Kind of plays a little bit like Devil May Cry in a way, but before Devil May Cry was a thing. And it's the first mature game on the list. But Sword of the Berserk is a great game. It's a lot of fun. Lots of fighting of bad guys and enemies on screen and lots of ass kicking. And it's just a really good game. Number 7 is Phantasy Star Online. One of the first games that utilized the online features for a console. And it was just a really fun RPG game. You might still be able to play it to this very day. I know my friend Dylan plays it. So it's a good RPG game. Definitely needed to have at least one RPG game on this list. Number 8 is Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is a great game. I know in the past I've put Resident Evil 2 up higher before. It's still good on the Dreamcast. Still a very good survival horror game. In fact, I would go as far to say that the graphics look slightly better than they do on the PlayStation 1. They do. And they look better than the N64 version. But it's a great game. Play as Leon Kennedy. You're trying to find survivors in the game. You pick up ammo and weapons in the game. You shoot zombies and kill zombies, but shooting them in the head. You got some spots in the game where it's a bit safer than others. You fight bosses, zombie bosses in the game. It's just one of the best Resident Evil games ever made was Resident Evil 2. But being that there's been like a remake that improved upon it 100%, and there's been other versions of the game, of course, I'm going to put it at number 8. But it's still good at number 8. Number 9 is Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was also released on the PlayStation 2, and because of it being, I guess it got kind of rare. So if you find the PS2 version out in the wild, you're gonna probably pay about $100 for it. And the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 game on Sega Dreamcast is still pretty damn expensive too. You gotta pay some money for that as well, probably $50 for a copy. And the first game isn't cheap either. For both of them, I estimate it's around $100. But it's a good game. It's a good fighting series. They haven't made one since the third game on PS3 and Xbox 360. I wish they'd make a fourth game. That would be awesome. Because the fighting mechanics in the game are fair, and the game is well balanced. It's fair and well balanced rather, and it's just a really great game. Play as Spider-Man. Get to play as all sorts of Capcom characters from Chun-Li and Ryu, Gully and Dulcium with the freaking hands that can go out. You know, you get to play as the Incredible Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, and a bunch of other Marvel characters. Maybe even the Punisher, or they might have excluded the Punisher for the game, but it's a good game and I recommend it. Number 10 is Soul Calibur. I had to put Soul Calibur up here because Soul Calibur is so good. You know, that was the first game in the series for Dreamcast, and it was just a really fun game. Lots of fighting in the game, lots of ass kicking. You know, playing against your friends in the two-player mode was a blast. You could waste like 3 or 4 hours playing the multiplayer with your friends in the game. It's just a really fun fighting game. All right, now the last five, of course, are hidden gems or honorable mentions. So, not honorable mentions, rather hidden gems. Although there is one game that's probably well known. Number 11 is Max Steel. Max Steel was a really fun game. Not widely talked about for the Dreamcast, but it is a fun game. It was based off the cartoon from the Fox Kids TV show. They later on, back in 2016, I believe, or 2017, made a movie based off of that TV show, Max Steel, with Ben Churchill and Anna Vilafane in the movie. And it was a good movie. Sadly, they never made a sequel to it, and they haven't made an updated cartoon of Max Steel. Although, if they made a cartoon of it, don't fuck it up. Don't make it shitty. Make it a good cartoon and make it worth our time. Cartoon Network, please don't screw it up. If you do make another cartoon, make it good. So the game it plays like a action game, um, and it's not bad. It's a pretty fun game. I recommend it. Number 12 is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I know y'all, what y'all are saying. Y'all are probably saying this is not underrated. This is not a hidden gem. Well, I still wanted to include it on my list because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was such a fun game. The Tony Hawk games up to like American Wasteland were really fun. You know, after that they started going downhill. Project 8 was all right, and then after that, just for Tony Hawk, because those last like 4 games really sucked. But Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was fun. Go around the levels, collect the hidden tape. You get to skate around, do tricks, do the ollie, do the kick flip, do the heel flip, do the 900, do an Indy 500, do like a 360 spin like this and land it. You know, do some like grind and rail tricks, lip tricks and stuff. Um, and it was, you know, collecting the skate and getting the pro score and 6 score in the game. It was just a really fun game, and the graphics surprisingly look best on the Dreamcast. They look fun. They look pretty darn good compared to the Nintendo 64 version. Number 13 is Spec Ops 2. Spec Ops 2 was an okay game on the Dreamcast, although I did notice one thing upon playing it. The controls, they kind of sucked. They had that tank control where the movement was just all screwed up. But if you're able to fix it, I think you're able to fix it in the settings, then it makes the game a bit more enjoyable. Other than that, the game's still a pretty good third-person shooter. It's a pretty good game. I recommend it if you have a Sega Dreamcast. Number 14 is Confidential Mission. That was a pretty fun game. They actually did put that in the arcades back in the day. I played it in the arcades, and then one day stumbled across it for Dreamcast and played it. Picked it up at Pastime Legends for like $15, and I played it, and I thought it was a really fun game. It was a shooting game, but it was like kind of like done on rails, kind of like House of the Dead, but not as violent. And it is a T for teen game. But you play as like a secret agent, and there's this girl in the game that's also a secret agent. And you work together to catch the bad guys, kill bad guys, and save the innocent people. It was a good game. I recommend it. And number 15 is NBA 2K1. And you're probably saying, why is NBA 2K1 on the list? Well, honestly, I thought it was a fun basketball game. It was easy to pick up and play, and it wasn't complicated, and it was just a typical basketball game. And the graphics did look pretty good, especially for a Dreamcast game. There was also NBA 2K, NBA 2K 2002, or 2K2, and then 2K3 or something. But I played NBA 2K1, and I thought it was a pretty good game. You know, you could play a 21 mode in the game. You could also play the uh, the regular pickup game or a match game in the game. It was a good game to play for an hour or two, pass the time, especially if you had a friend. So it's worth mentioning for the list. Honorable mentions is definitely got to be Skies of Arcadia. I never played the game, that's why it's not on the list. But I've heard it's a really great game. It's gotten up there in value. It's probably around $100 for a copy, or $150. 75 if you're lucky. But it's a great RPG game. Phantasy Star Online version 2 or just 2. Another great game in the Phantasy Star franchise. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Great game. More customization, more levels, and just improved upon the first game. Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX. Yes, it was also on the Dreamcast. It was on the PS1 as well. It was a fun game. It's a shame to see that Dave Mirra is no longer here, that he's dead, but that game was a blast to play. Really fun bike game. Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX. That was a fun game for the Dreamcast. Another fun bicycle game. Super Runabout. That's a fun driving game. It's like basically the game that came out before Reckless, the Yakuza missions on PS2 and Xbox before that. It was a really fun game. I recommend that. Carrier was a pretty good survival horror game for the Dreamcast. It was done in the same vein as Resident Evil, but it was also very good. A bit more cartoony looking for the characters in the game, but still a pretty fun game. Blue Stinger. Blue Stinger doesn't get enough love. Excuse me, enough love and enough praise in the game, but it is a really fun survival horror game. And in that game, you play as two main characters, and they work together to try and find one of your friends that went missing. Tim, I believe, was his name. And so in the game, you switch between the two characters, and you fight these like monsters and stuff in the game. You start off with I think you start off with a melee weapon. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I played that. But you eventually get a pistol and a shotgun, and I think a rifle as well, or a machine gun, to kill those enemies. It's a really good game. And of course, I can't forget the Power Stone games, Power Stone 1 and 2. Those are good fighting games. I think they were trying to compete with Smash Brothers. Of course, they were not up to the same, level as Smash Brothers, but it was still pretty damn close to being a really great fighting game. It's still a good fighting game, but it's definitely under looked. I think that's the wrong word. It's underrated. I will say that. It's definitely underrated. Power Stone 1 and 2. And then, of course, I can't forget Virtua Fighter 3. Virtua Fighter 3 was pretty good. That was a good fighting game. And I can't forget Unreal Tournament. Quake 3 Arena. Those were good first-person shooter games on the system. And also, what was that other game? Soldier of Fortune, and I can't forget Marvel vs. Capcom, the first one, and Doom. Doom was also on it. I think it was a burn copy because Dreamcast had such a short lifespan that Doom and Half-Life had to be burned to a disc because initially they did complete the game, but because the Dreamcast just went out, the game was available to be downloaded onto a disc, a copy, but just didn't get a physical release. And they did have a game on the Dreamcast that was this never came out because you were dropping bombs on towers, and it was during the time of the 9/11, so they did not release that game. I think that's it. There might be a few other games that I'm forgetting to mention right now. But if they come to me, I will. Oh, Evolution! I can't forget Evolution and Evolution 2. Those are good action RPG games on the system. Oh, and Resident Evil Code Veronica. There we go. I think I rectified myself there. But like I said, if I did forget anything, I'll be sure to leave it in the comments section below. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my top 15 and my honorable mentions here, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching and listening to me as always. God bless you and thank you for watching. Take care. Larry the Batman fan. Sign off. And also, Anthony Chobot does pop culture. I would like to know what your top 15 Sega Dreamcast games are. Please let me know. Please do a video. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think the top 15 Sega Dreamcast games are. And please, for the love of God, don't forget Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. Those are must for the list. Alright, take care everyone. Have a blessed day.